What's up, everyone? It is Cecily. Welcome to Cecily Daily, your daily dose of news, pop culture, and those trending topics you just can't ignore. My name is Cecily. I'm here to break down what's happening in the world. Let's talk about these lawsuits. Oh my goodness. So many lawsuits. So many lawsuits, so little time, right? Yeah, yeah, that's how you have to start this off because when I created this topic, there were only 12 lawsuits. In the matter of days, I believe we've jumped up to 19 and counting. So let's go over what we know about the existing or active lawsuits and kind of wade into what's going on with the current ones. Yeah. Starting off with case number one, in no particular order, we have the Rodney Jones versus Sean Combs case. Rodney Jones, who also goes by Little Rod, is a record producer. He accused Diddy of running a racketeering operation, forcing him to procure drugs and sex workers, and even threatening violence if Jones didn't comply. Jones alleges in his complaint that he has irrefutable evidence of the acquisition, use, and distribution of ecstasy, cocaine, GHP, ketamine, marijuana, and mushrooms. And B, displaying and distribution of unregistered illegal firearms. And C, the solicitation of minors and sex workers. This case is ongoing with the Jones asking for a jury trial. Case number two is Jane Doe versus Sean Combs. A Jane Doe alleges that she was gang raped by Diddy, Bad Boy President Harve Pierre, and others when she was just 17. She claims that they lured her to New York, drugged her, and assaulted her. She alleges that once there, Combs and associates, including Pierre, who plied her with drugs and alcohol, and alleges that she was subsequently gang at the studio by Combs, Pierre, and a third assailant. Diddy has denied it, and the case is ongoing. It's only two in, and I'm already breathing hard. Case number three is a case that we all know. It's Cassandra Ventura versus Sean Combs. That is Cassie, Diddy's ex. She accused him of years of sexual abuse, trafficking, and controlling behavior. And they settled that case out of court. Case number four would be Liza Gardner versus Sean Combs. Gardner alleges as a teenager she experienced misconduct from Sean Combs and Aaron Hall of Guy fame, claiming that the incident left her with long-term trauma. This case is ongoing. Case number five is Joy Dickerson Neal versus Sean Combs. Dickerson Neal claims that in 1991, Combs drugged and engaged in inappropriate behavior without her consent. Recording the incident, this case remains active in court. Case number six is Grace O'Mackay. McKay, I think it is. Omar K. Versus Christian and Sean Combs. McKay, a yacht deck hand, alleges that Christian Combs engaged in inappropriate behavior while she worked on a family yacht and holds Sean Combs responsible for fostering an unsafe environment. The case is ongoing. Imagining being an adult and we're suing you and your daddy. Yikes. Case number seven, Crystal McKinney versus Sean Combs. McKinney, a former model, claims that Combs coerced her into acts after providing her with drugs during a Fashion Week event, resulting in significant personal and professional repercussions. The case is still active. She must have acted up, Lord Jesus. Case number eight, April Lampros versus Sean Combs. Lampros alleges that from 1995 to the 2000s, Combs engaged in misconduct on multiple occasions, forcing her into unwanted encounters. The case remains ongoing. There's a theme here, but I think it's going to make sense by the time this video is over. Case number nine is Derek Lee Cardello Smith versus Sean Combs. Cardell Smith, currently incarcerated, accuses Combs of misconduct and claims that he was offered a settlement which did not materialize. I believe that they said that they were improperly served or something like that. I'm not sure what they, off the top of my head, but it was some sort of technicality. The court is reviewing this case with a hearing scheduled for November. Happy that he's getting his just due, at least his day in court, right? Case 10, Don Richard versus Sean Combs. Richard is a former member of Danity Kane, claims that she witnessed abusive behavior by Combs towards others and was subject to inappropriate behavior herself. This case is ongoing. Case 11 is Talia Graves versus Sean Combs. Graves alleges that in 2001, she was subjected to violent behavior by Combs after being incapacitated. She has reported lasting health issues stemming from the incident. The case is currently active. And case 12, a recent lawsuit from a Jane Doe claims that over 4 years, Combs coerced her into non consensual situations involving drug usage and pressured her into medical decisions. This case was filed last month and ongoing. So, at the time of me putting this list together, which was like Sunday night, several other cases flooded on Monday, and I've been away, had to take advantage of that tax filing situation extension. So I got my taxes done. So I'm here on the other side of that. Like, there's so much information out there, but I appreciate anyone that wants to hear my version of what's going on in the world and to converse with me about it. So if you're here, for that reason, you could be anywhere else, but you're here. I appreciate it. And let me take my earrings off because I hear them clacking, and I know that might be a bad look, especially for those that are listening to me on Spotify. Oh, that's real. That's how we do it. Production at home. Busby. Busby. Okay. Mr. Busby, an attorney in Texas, filed 6 lawsuits on Monday. These wave of lawsuits accused Diddy of raping women, SAing men, and molesting a 16-year-old boy. At least 6 of the lawsuits were filed filed against the hip hop mogul in federal court in Manhattan. They were filed anonymously, 2 by women identified as Jane Does and 4 by men identified as John Does. The accusers are a part of what the lawyers say is a group of more than 100 alleged victims who are in the process of taking legal action against Combs in the wake of this trafficking case and arrest last month. And we'll do a freestyle conversation after the fact, but I just wanted to kind of present all this stuff beforehand because I've seen a few people do these videos too, and it's just like interesting. Everyone has their own take on it. And when you see everything, I think when you see the big picture, like all of it, I think some of the minor details or smaller details are really easy to kind of figure out. And so I do have some of the complaints, but I don't want to read all of them. I just want to read portions of it. So, and to be in all actuality, I think there's one complaint that is the most disturbing to me that I really want to examine with you all. And that might be the one that's like the most salacious. I think that came out yesterday. So we're going over what came out on Monday. So one of the women, Jane Doe, is accused Combs of, I'm trying to think of a better way to say these words because the algorithm does not the algorithm, but the AI, the system doesn't like these words. RAPING her on the floor of a bathroom in a Brooklyn dance club in 1995 during a promotional party for the release of the music video for Biggie Smalls' hip hop R&B hit One More Chance. That is one of my favorite songs, which Combs, then known to the public as Puff Daddy. The plaintiff says Combs hit her to the ground. Hit her. Maybe hit her on the ground. That's written funny. After she asked him to slow down his advances and trapped her in the bathroom of the Elks Plaza Club. Disoriented and in pain, the plaintiff tried to escape, but Combs hit her again, making it nearly impossible for her to move. The plaintiff says that in her complaint, Combs then lifted her dress and raped her vaginally while she laid helpless on the floor. Whew. Okay. In another complaint filed by a woman, she was a 19-year-old student at the time. Her and her friend were in the Manhattan area Marriott Hotel after meeting them at a promotional photo shoot downtown Brooklyn in 2004. She recalls in the complaint one of the Combs bodyguards telling her, "You know what you are here for." We're going to talk about this, okay? She recalls in the complaint one of the Combs bodyguards telling her, "You know what you're here for," when she asked him where they were going as they were being taken from the main room of the hotel suite to the after party in a separate bedroom. Oh gosh, you've kept me safe. Combs continued getting gradually more aggressive with the two women and eventually began forcibly touching them without consent. She accuses in her complaint when they resisted, Combs ordered Miss Doe's friend to perform oral sex on him and or else he would kill them. And in that case, the girl eventually, the friend eventually escapes. The other woman is then raped, and then he threatens her life. He leaves. A bodyguard comes in and allows her to leave. It's a lot. Some of the male lawsuits from that cluster. Let's go over it. In one of the lawsuits, John Doe accuses the founder of fondling his genitals during one of his white parties in the Hamptons in 1998 when the plaintiff was only 16. The plaintiff accuses Combs of drugging him with no. This is not the case. This situation, he told the boy, and let me get the actual words. Oh, here we go. Pulls him into a private area near the portable bathrooms brought in for the party where the producer discussed the potential for breaking into the entertainment industry before demanding the teacher show him his private area. Despite the pleasant conversation which occurred, things took an unexpected turn for the worst, he says in his complaint. He instructed that John Doe drop his pants and expose himself so that Combs could inspect it, explaining it was a rite of passage and the route to becoming a star, and also a way to prove himself. And then says, "Don't you want to break into the business?" During the incident. The boy later realized that he was taken advantage of and wants his just due for that being that situation. And another complaint, which I haven't heard much about. I've heard a lot of I've heard the instances where women were treated this way. This right here is one of the first cases where I've heard him doing this with a man. In this separate suit, he drugged this man with GHB and then sodomized him with other men while the man was incapacitated. The man said that he would only drink one drink when he go out, and this drink was laced with GHB. I'm sorry to do that in the mic. I've heard some other creators say that there's so many of these, it's starting to sound like it's just not real. So check it out. If you get away with murder, right? First time, second time, third time, fourth time, and you've been allowed to do this over 30 something years, nearly 40 years, one would call you a career criminal. Now, if you go to work and you're a career criminal, what are you doing every day? You're just doing crimes. You're just doing crimes on top of crimes on top of crimes on top of crimes. On top of that, you've got friends and fixers in low and high places. And so you're used to getting away with stuff. But there's one thing that people are not realizing. While women are while women are protected in society, how do we treat women that appear to be on drugs, appear to be drunk, appear to be out of control? We don't really regard those women as being precious and or worth protection, to be honest with you. And if you are drugged or drunk, then it's likely that, especially unfortunately, the male mind and even sometimes the female mind says, whatever's happening to you, it's your fault and you're a willing participant and you're not even lucid enough right now to tell me the difference. And what do people who have lost their mind or take a short vacation on their mind do? They make up stories. Me and Beyonce are gonna go get a taco. Really? Me and Jay-Z are gonna play chess all evening. Sure you did, as you smear the lipstick on the other side of your face. Eyes dilated, pupils dilated, whatever. Hair a mess, clothes ravished, smelling of all kinds of scents. You think I'm gonna believe what you have to say when you say Sean Combs did this to me? Puff Daddy, who turned himself into like this, like his avatar was like so like almost goofy on purpose, likable. He is a shorter guy. He's not tiny, but he's not the biggest person either. So you look at him and you're like, this guy wouldn't hurt a fly. Like he might throw a tizzy and have a tantrum, but who's he gonna hurt? Like he fooled so many people for so long. So, excuse me, I could see how someone would say, if you don't get your drunk ass home, if you don't get your drugged out behind, girl, this is what you do. So get away from me. I could see how women could be turned away, or anyone can be turned away if you're under the influence. And so that right there is by design. I think one of the things that helped them get away is that their victims would be drugged to capacity, to the point where by the time you wake up from this, we're gone and we're done. And if you try to say anything, there's all kinds of hell coming to you, embarrassment coming to you, and or just like prove it, just prove it. And I could see how I'd be intimidated about telling. I could see that. I'm gonna scroll down on this complaint where the man. Okay, so I've heard people read the stuff about the woman being getting raped, and I have not heard anyone say anything about this man. So it says first cause of action, violation of New York City Victim of Gender Motivated Violence Protection Act. It's interesting. Actually, let me take you back a little bit further to like where that part starts, where he starts to, it's called factual allegations. Plaintiff worked for Royal Reigns Management, a prestigious company based out of New York with additional offices in Los Angeles and Atlanta. Through plaintiff's industry connections, he gained access to parties and associated with Combs and Bad Boy Entertainment. One party took place around October 2021. This is newish. Oh my gosh. These connections and invitation ultimately led to a life-altering and traumatic experience for plaintiff. Combs businesses picked plaintiff up from the airport and transported him to New York City where the party was to take place. Upon arrival, plaintiff noticed several well-known artists in attendance. Plaintiff was immediately offered what he was told was ecstasy by associates of Combs businesses, which plaintiff refused. Plaintiff limited himself to one drink. Even though plaintiff only consumed one alcoholic drink, the effects of the drink were immediate and overwhelming. This behavior towards plaintiff mimics a pattern of Combs and his agents, employees, drugging unsuspecting victims in order to make it easier for Combs to sexually assault that person. I agree. Unfortunately, plaintiff was one such victim. A photograph of the exemplary container used by Combs and his agents employees to insert GHB into alcoholic drinks is seen below. I've had this done to me before, and it's not a triggering. It's not triggering in the sense that something bad happened, but I was slipped this drug twice, and thank goodness I was with my friends. But we'll talk about that after this. Plaintiff soon became disoriented, and the room started spinning. In a state of confusion, he attempted to remove himself from the situation, seeking a safe space. As plaintiff tried to leave, a male voice told him to hold on, and he promised to help him. The next thing plaintiff remembers is being in a bedroom despite being vaguely aware of his surroundings. He could not move, speak, or fight back. This is it. He can't. Plaintiff was paralyzed. Feeling as if he was trapped in his own body, multiple men began to sexually assault him through sodomy and other forced acts. He distinctly recalls seeing Combs above him, naked at one point during the assault. During this time, plaintiff was sodomized by at least 3 men. Plaintiff could feel a difference in the size of the men when he was sodomized, confirming the presence of multiple attackers. Plaintiff continues to attend therapy sessions to address the trauma from these experiences. Can you imagine? Y'all out here just taking men though? Like you just taking men? Like I think about my sons and I think about their safety. I think about them being on the street and not being, racially profiled in the wrong place, wrong time. And like I said, while I've worked in this industry and been in these places, this is not something that I've seen up close. This is something that I knew existed. I knew was going on in a sense, but not at this magnitude. I didn't know that it was so violent and so heinous. I just figured they're all doing what they want to do. And some maybe not, but that's your ass, kind of like, well, if that's the trick, then you sold yourself. But I never, honestly, never even considered victims being associated with this lifestyle. I didn't. But things make sense. People that I knew that were different, that changed, that got to places and just weren't the same. I totally see it now. I do. Going back to we're going to get back to the number of accusers, but just to touch lightly on the GHB. I don't know specifically if that was what was put in my drink. I know there's a few of them, right? I should know. Remember Dateline used to have all this information? Love me some Dateline, child. So anyway, yeah, 2 times this happened to me. One time in Sacramento and one time in Los Angeles. I'm from Sacramento, and met a friend at the bar, and I think I got there before he did. By the time he got there, he said I had 1 glass. I had 1 glass. I had like because my whole thing at that time was like you get your Long Island iced tea and then you prosecco it for the rest of the night, and that was good for me. Like that was easy, and I got the drink, and I remember talking to the bartender and this older white guy, and I felt like I had my drink in my possession the whole time, which makes me think that the bartender may have done it because the guy I was talking to was the one that bought it from me. But it was just like my drink was right here. Like I just negotiated a very small space between us. There was like no one on this side. Like it just didn't make any sense. And a friend I was meeting was a childhood friend, a friend of my family, someone who's very trustworthy. And I had already started to feel the effects by the time I got back from the bathroom. I told him I was going to the bathroom. I came back, and all I remember is being carried out of that place and feeling the coolness on my hands and my face because it's in old Sacramento. So things are cobblestone. They're kind of like it's the olden days, like Texas, not Texas, but why I say that? Like cowboy, Western. Think of that. Think of old architecture that you see in the Westerns. We're below ground because it's down in the basement. And so it was cool. And it must have been summertime. So I remember touching it as we as he was carrying me out. And I'm surprised because he's a little guy. I don't know how he carried me out. And I remember touching against my cheek. Now I think about it right now, like how comforting was like cobblestone, but basically bricks. Cause they kind of have this thing. I'm thinking like, did I get scratched up? But anyway, there were some I remember hearing the out of body experience. I remember hearing everything, but not being able to react to it, not being able to talk, not being able to walk. I remember these girls were like, "Where are you going? Where are you taking her? Where are you taking her?" He's like, "This is my friend's sister. It's like my sister. Like, I'm not doing anything. I just got to get her home." He should have taken me to the hospital, but I think he was afraid, right? And so, like, I wake up, like, maybe later on that morning, and I'm in the tub, sitting up, propped up, and I have been throwing up, and he had me propped up, and I was in different clothes, and I was just like, like, how did I get in different clothes? And he was sitting way on the other side. So I'm in my bathroom, way on the other side of the room in a chair that he had placed like as far as he could from me to watch me, but also to stay away from me. And he was like, like, let me tell you what happened. And I called your brother and all this kind of stuff. And I've been waiting. And I'm just sitting here like, wow, like it was crazy. And I felt like myself. I was absolutely tired. I am the type of person that feel if something was to happen to me, I would feel it. Nothing like that was going on. She truly was like a brother. You know what I mean? Like true and true. So I looked up in that instance. Like, if you think about it, if he hadn't arrived on time, who knows what would have happened? And the second time it happened, I had met some NFL players at Jesus Super Bowl, and I think it was in Phoenix that year, and we all got together in Los Angeles. And these were not like the big ones. Like these were the bench players. Like, they were kind of cool for the time, but if I said their name, you wouldn't remember them. And we were all just hanging out, not even dressed up, coming from work, thinking about doing something. And the one of the players who actually thought was cute gave us drinks, and he gave me and my sister a drink, and he was there as his agent, and I was doing PR at the time, and so his agent was kind of like my associate or whatever, which really like rubbed me the wrong way because I was just like, I work with your agent. Why would you? Why would you do this? So yeah, same thing. I took a drink. And what's funny is that I had some no dos. And I used to take no dos a lot because I would get tired and I wanted to stay up. So I'd been used to taking it. And if anyone's ever taken no dos before, it just keeps you up. It doesn't scramble your eggs, right? It doesn't scramble your brain. But it's probably the thing that kept me up, to be honest with you, because it does make you feel sleepy. But it was the same thing. Like I didn't drink like a whole bunch. I'm coming from work. Like who wants to do all that? Like, especially if you got to work the next day. Cause like most of the cool things at that time happened during the week. And so I remember getting in my truck, and all I remember is being on one side of the street and turning around because I was going to take the canyon home. And I remember going in circles. And so from there, my sister said that she stopped, had to take, drive the car, drove home, and then I commenced like throwing up. So it does cause you to get really sick. But yeah, like why it's just random stuff. So there's a lot of that kind of stuff that happens. Thank God I was with family, I was with friends. But it happens extremely fast. It's odorless, it's colorless. There are a lot of places here in town that have been known to have bartenders and security folk and just people who literally are picking and choosing like who they're going to do this to. And if you don't believe me, look up the Abbey. Look up the Abbey. And I remember at one point people were leaving their stories on Yelp. They may have cleaned it up by now, but like people, there's so many stories of people like, yo, like I went there and I woke up and they went to the police and the police were like, the police don't really care about a drunk person who got a problem. They really don't. They figure you put yourself in a situation where you're inebriated and you deserve it. That's literally how they feel. And it's sad because like things happen to people, and just because you might have alcohol in your system doesn't mean that you're a willing participant. Doesn't mean that you were negligent, because there's levels to it, right? There are levels to being intoxicated and or just being buzzed or just consuming alcohol. Like it's crazy how immediately they're like, yeah. Well, I've got some experience, so I'm going to share it with you now, okay? I'm a grown lady. I'm going to share my experience. So this latest case was filed on the 16th. Was it filed yesterday? No, 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 no. It was filed on Tuesday, I believe. It was filed on Tuesday, and folks have been talking about it. I'm going to give you a trigger warning. Trigger warnings across the board. This one is not for the weak. And I'm going to actually have to turn this into 18 and over, John, because, yeah. Lawsuit filed in Northern California, where I'm from. Federal court obtained by describes this person as a California resident. Her name is Ashley Parham. Go ahead, Ashley. You release your real name, and I'm here for it. Northern Cali, stand up, Bay Area. Where you at? Accused Combs of sexual assault and battery, abuse, false imprisonment, and kidnapping. She claims to have virtually met Combs in February 2018 when a man she'd met at a bar started a FaceTime call with the Bad Boy Records founder outside the bar. Now, I'm particularly interested in this case because I truly believe parts of Kim Porter's book. If you haven't listened to it, I do have a audio reading on my channel, and I do believe that he had something to do with the unaliving of Tupac. I always have. I've heard things. I've heard things. I've heard things. This is not the first time I've heard details. One thing I did not know was that it could have possibly been over Kim. And so, if you're not familiar with that chapter, there's a chapter called Tupac in her book, and it's just no, actually, it's called Pac. I think it's just called Pac in her book. And I have a video that I'm producing right now for that, because I think that by sending that book away, I understand that there are some parts that people don't want anyone to believe. I wouldn't want anyone to believe anything bad about me either, but it really set the foundation for the type of individual that we're dealing with. We're dealing with somebody who's literally on sociopath, psychopath status. Like this, there's just not a little bit of narcissism in here. It's a whole bad batch of DNA. Yeah, for those who are like, wait for his day in court. Mm, mm, really? Do we have to wait? Because some people have just been getting away with so much. And yeah, the streets have been talking for a while. So it has, my opinion has more to do with what I believe to be true, just seeing things. But I'm not going to state like all of the truisms I see. But one thing I will always do is to stand with victims of sexual assault. So while people are like, he deserves his day in court, people who have gone through sexual assault deserve compassion, and it deserves someone believing them. So I think the two shall collide in this sense. Like I'm not going to negate someone's pain and torture and believing someone that they thought was going to do something good for them turning out to do something horrible to them. I'm believing that their pain is real until otherwise is shown. Okay. So let's get into Ashley because Ashley is a boss because she said, I'm going to put my name on it. Come get me. She said, Jane Doe where? It's on the internet. If you haven't seen it, you don't have to pay for it. But the plaintiff is Ashley Parham, and her complaint is against Sean Combs, Christina Karam, that is his right hand woman, Sean Purse or Pierce, but I think it's Pierce per se. I don't know. Shane rather. Shane P. Then you got some John Does 1 through 3 and a Jane Doe. It's a whole party. This case is involving sexual assault, battery, rape, sexual abuse, and false imprisonment and kidnapping. Hey guys, I chose to break up these videos because the last segment of this broadcast details the complaint that Ashley Parham is alleging against Sean Combs. It's an adult conversation. It contains triggering situations and adult language. So I wanted to make sure that people that were listening knew that. Also, it might be something that you want to listen to when you're not around work colleagues and other impressionable folks. So please click on the link if you're interested in hearing the details about that case. And I appreciate you so much for reaching this part of the video. If you don't know who I am, my name is Cecily Jamelia. I live in Los Angeles. I'm really enjoying sharing these topics with you, and I hope that you choose to experience them with me in the future. Thank you.